Hello again. Time for another cooking video. So around here, I feel like we've been experiencing the most beautiful spring that I ever remember. It's been long and cool and hasn't jumped straight into summertime. Of course, we had a little tornado there in the middle. But since then, this weather has been wonderful and even cold for May here. It was 40 degrees this morning, which is kind of unheard of. But it means that soup season is extended just a little bit further. So I thought before summer fully hits, I would share one of my favorite soup recipes with you. This one is always a favorite on Wednesday nights as well. This is my dad's recipe. It's a chicken and rice mulligatawny soup. My dad was in the restaurant business for many years. He was not a chef. He managed restaurants, but he loved cooking and he loved to sneak into his kitchen and get tips and pointers from his chefs. And this recipe came home with him one night and it became one of our family favorites. As a cook, he wasn't really one for measuring and writing down in recipes either, kind of like I am. But sometimes he would start with a lot of butter. He loved butter. He called it the other white meat. Sometimes he used olive oil. Sometimes he'd switch out whipping cream with coconut milk. He liked to play around with this, but the basic ingredients remain the same. So tonight I'm going to go ahead and do the dairy-free version of this soup. I'm going to use coconut milk and olive oil instead of butter and cream, but you can substitute in any one that you want. The basis of this recipe is a French trio called a mirepoix. This is going to be in most soups and stews in French cooking. This is the Trinity, they call it. Onion, of course, 1 large diced onion. This is about 2 large carrots, just roughly chopped. And this is 2 to 3, I think it was 3 ribs of celery. So we're going to start with that. A couple tablespoons of olive oil straight in our pot here, or butter. You are so inclined. Both are delicious. So all these veggies are going to go straight in our pot. So those are going to soften up just a little bit as those cook. I'm going to introduce this next ingredient, which is a little bit strange. People are always surprised when I tell them what it is. It's actually a couple of diced peeled apples. They sort of give a tartness to the soup that goes really well with the curry that we're going to add later. Apples, actually fruit, and most curries go well together. So this is 2 small diced apples. They're just, not very big. They cook up pretty quickly. So we're going to go ahead and add that to our vegetables. Okay. And now our curry. This is just a really basic, mild yellow curry powder. If you like more heat, you can add a spicier blend if you want. We just got this at Whole Foods, I think. And it's not an overwhelming curry flavor. The curry gives it a really nice yellow color, gives it a little hint of curry without it being overpowering. So my kids really love this. It's pretty family friendly. So this is a heaping tablespoon of curry powder. I'm just going to sprinkle it over my vegetables and saute that just for a minute. Let it blossom. The flavors in the oil get nice and hot. Okay, so as that cooks, we're going to season it with some salt. Good hefty pinch of salt. You can adjust your seasonings later. Several grinds of pepper. Oh, and I have some fresh thyme. I finally got my herbs into the ground. They almost froze last night. I love fresh thyme. It's one of my favorite herbs to cook with. Dried thyme works as well. You can use a little bit of oregano. You don't have to add any herbs, but I always like to throw the whole twig in there, leaves and all. It's such a pain to pick off each individual leaf. And they cook off of the stem, then you can just pull the stem out later. It's really easy. So, of course, this is washed. So I'm just going to throw that right in there. You hear this sizzling away. It smells really good already. Normally, making a soup, I would thicken this up by adding some flour to my oil and vegetables, making a kind of a roux, letting it cook up. So when we add our broth, it will be nice and thick. But this soup has rice, and rice is an excellent thickener, so you don't need to add any flour. So this is a really good gluten-free soup as well. I'm going to go ahead and add my broth. This is about a quart, it's really full, of my frozen chicken broth from the time I did the baked chicken. Really good flavor in this. It already has some onion and celery flavor in it. Of course, you can use store-bought broth as well. And again, the beauty of soup, you don't really need to measure it. You can add as many fillings as you want. If you want a thinner soup, go ahead and have a thinner soup with less ingredients in it. Again, I serve 7 people at a meal, so we're going to eat all this up. This makes great leftovers as well. All right, that's going to take a little while to come to a boil. So I'm going to wait to put my chicken in because I don't want it to get too dried out. This is, again, leftover chicken from a couple meals ago. It's 2 to 3 chicken thighs. You can use breast as well, or a mix of the two. Breast does tend to dry out a little bit. And this, I have half a cup of raw or dry rice. If you have pre-cooked rice left over, again, this is a great soup for leftovers. Go ahead and throw that in there. You'll need about a cup of it. But remember, rice is going to just keep absorbing and expanding. So you'll need much less dry rice than you would cooked rice. You can always thin it out later if you find it's getting too thick. So I'm going to go ahead and let this come to a boil, and we'll be back in a few minutes. Okay. Our soup is boiling away. The vegetables are fully soft. Smells really good. So we're going to go ahead and add our rice. It's about half a cup. This is, again, uncooked. Stir it around a little bit so it doesn't stick to the bottom. And then our chicken. Again, this is a good vegetable soup. If you are trying not to do meat, you can go without meat as well. The chicken gives it really nice flavor. So that's 2 to 3 diced chicken thighs. Just whatever you might have on hand. All right. So that's our soup. All that we need now is a whole can of coconut milk. I'm just going to put straight in here. Again, you can use heavy cream, half and half, even milk if you want a little bit of creaminess, but you need to cut down on the calories. So this is just going to cook until the rice has fully absorbed enough water. Then you want to serve it pretty quickly. As it sits, the rice is going to continue to absorb. So usually if I have leftovers of this, the next day I have to thin it out again with a little bit of milk or broth because it will thicken up quite a bit. So then we're just going to adjust our salt and pepper and serve it up. This is a really good soup. It's really hearty, great flavor, nice and creamy. Good breads to go with it. I have a bag of my frozen flatbread that I'm just going to pop in the toaster real quick, and this is really good with this soup. My artesian bread, of course any bread would go well with soup, but those are 2 of my favorites because this is a good soup for dunking. So that's all I have for you today. I hope you're enjoying this lovely spring, and hopefully we'll be able to see each other again soon. Okay. Thanks.